Well, I'm back with this thing, and I pulled it out of the motor. Obviously, it's sitting here on the kitchen table again. I'm going to clean this up a little tiny bit. Got some gunk. Just throw a little bit on there, just kind of scrape it off a little tiny bit. And, since I wasn't sure that it was going to work, I didn't install the grommet that fits right here at the wires. So I'm going to get that installed. I'm going to pull my wires off. Or not my wires, but my leads off. I'm going to put these leads on, and then I'm going to a little solder paste, make sure they're soldered on, they're good and tight, so I've got good solid electrical connections. And oh yeah, one other thing, I'm going to take the rotor that's supposed to be with this distributor, which doesn't work with all the spacers in here, and I'm going to scrape off the bottom little lip on this thing right there. Can you see it? Yes, it's visible. So I'm going to scrape some of that lip off right there so that it doesn't drive the cap off when you install it. But it appears to be working pretty decently. I've gone out and done the frame by frame scatter check on it, so I'll include that here toward the end of the video. But yeah, I got a little bit of cleaning up to do here and a few final install bits. Okay, so these are soldered like they're supposed to be. If you look down there, there is some clearance between the reluctor and the red wire and the black wire. And the red and black wires are held pretty tightly in place so that they don't move around or bounce or anything. So there's not going to be any rubbing there. I reduced the gap between the rotor and the top of the donut by grinding that thing down, so I've got plenty of clearance in there now. I cleaned it up. Well, it's dirt, but it doesn't look brand new. I don't want it to look brand new. So it's a little bit cleaner. What else have I got here? Nothing. I think I'm ready to go and stick it back in the car. Well, it's back in. I didn't do that good a job getting the initial timing on. I think I was about 3 degrees after top dead center, so I was off by a good solid 10 degrees. But anyway, started. And that's about where I like to see it. Got to get some of the grease. I got to clean this thing. Running smooth. The cap, I got the new rotor in. The cap was like bouncing around because it was too tight. So I got the cap problem fixed. Again, make sure you got red to red, black to black. Alright, it's good. Maybe I'll take it on a trip tomorrow. Okay, well, since this one's actually stayed functioning long enough for me to drive around in it, I've also done the scatter. It's actually not scatter, it's a variance. I've done the variance by, as you see, videoing very closely the timing on the pulley with the degree marks here. Anyway, this is number 1 right there. And I've got it, what does that look like? Like if we look at just the right-hand edge of this little needle right in here, take a look, it's just below 11 degrees, just less than 11. So you can see that it's extremely consistent. And of course, this is the first time I've used this particular distributor to do this. All the other timing stuff that I've done, I've used my 009. So this is my old distributor that was in my 74 Beetle. That's been sitting, not the Beetle, but the distributor's been sitting on the shelf for decades. And anyway, it seems to be working. And let's take a look and see what happens when we push all of the sparks into the picture so that we can see how far the spread is, the total variance. See if we can find number 1. All right, that looks like about number 1 right there. So what do? It's 4, 3, 2, and 1. So it looks to me like 2 is the biggest one. So 2 has got about 10 3/4 degrees of advance, and let's see what the smallest one is. What's that, about 10 1/4? So 10 1/4 to 11 3/4. Well, looks like that's about 1.5 degrees, which is better than the little donut provided by the Pertronics igniter. So the compufire, as I expected, is producing more accurate timing. But of course, I've got it in a different distributor. And what happens when I start revving up in the other distributor, I start getting scatter. So this is variance, but I also get scatter because the parts, the shaft of the distributor bounces up and down the distributor. Drive gear's moving around. So as things move around, the rotor begins to bang forwards and backwards a little bit, giving you some scatter to add to your variance. And I think I've got that in here somewhere. Hang on. All right, let's take a look. This is at about 2,000 RPMs or so, something like that. So let's see what kind of scatter I'm getting. All right, frame. It's about 23 degrees. 25 and a half. 23 3/4. 24. A little less than 24, a little more than 23, 24, 23. Ooh, those are real tight. Look at these two. Just barely moved with those two. So very little bouncing around there. All right, let's go to higher RPMs. All right, let's see what happens at the higher RPMs. This is around 3,200, 33. I tried to set it at about the point where I like to drive down the highway, so I can get some feel for how much scatter I've got going on at those RPMs. So we got one that's about 30. Whoa, 35, back to 30. A little below 30, 29 and a half, about 33 and a half, about 30. Ooh, about 34, a little over 30, a little less than that. Well, those two are very close. That one and that one are both right around 33. A bit under 34, 31, 32, about 30, 30 and a half, 29 and a half, 34 and a half. That looks to me like it's bouncing around about 5 degrees. That's actually better than my 009, which I think has about 8 degrees, 8 to 10 degrees of bounce in it. It bounces around an awful lot. But this is not being caused by the ignition. This is mechanical problems. It's not really problems. I mean, the system works. It's not really problems. It's just some mechanical slop. Maybe one of these days I'll try and figure out how to get it out. I did have a spacer in there. It kind of worked, but then again, it didn't work. So there were still problems with it. So it helped, but it didn't fix it. Maybe I'll go back and try and add some more stuff to it. But so far, what have I got? I think I've got maybe an hour and 15 minutes on it. I've started the car maybe 15, 16, 17 times, something like that. So it starts up every time. It's not hiccup or cough. It's been super solid. So I think I've got myself a secondary ignition now. I just have to figure out which one I want to use. And I was kind of checking out the vacuum canister on the one I've got in the car right now. Maybe that vacuum canister works. I thought it was broken, but it might just actually work. Anyway, I think that's enough for this one. And yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but at some point here I'll come up with something else. Anyway, thanks for watching. More later.